Good morning. So welcome to this interesting moment. I was just telling Doug that I was going through some information for forum, and I thought, in our information for forum, I found all this information about Doug Seacat. We have retired teachers. So Kathy and I kind of stay intact with former teachers, kids we've known forever, okay? And we're just really proud of the fact that our Montrose High School, Montrose community come about and grow this type of talent. So thank you very much for joining us this morning. I'm Judy Ann Files. I'm one of the 4 forum facilitators. Kathy Hebers, obviously, as I point, is another one. And Phoebe, Phoebe's pacing back there. She's worried about that. For those of you I see some new faces, if you haven't been here before, we meet every Wednesday morning from 8 till 9, and topics are so varied. Sometimes it's Kelvin talking about going climbing and going on adventures. Sometimes we go on field trips. So it's every Wednesday from 8 to 9 until we get into October. And then in October, we are switching just for a few months to 9 to 10. If you get our emails every week, you'll be seeing that. Just be prepared. The first one in October, don't come at 8. I promise you, we won't be here. We won't be here until 9. We do have cards. If you're not on our email list and you'd like to be, please get one of our cards, and then you can join up, and we send you this email every Saturday morning telling you what our program is. Programs are varied. William Woody from the city of Montrose videotapes almost all of our forums, and they show up on the city website under the forum, obviously. Okay, if you ever want to see any of them that maybe you missed, or you want to get some details like I did on one just recently, I went back in just to look at some details that have been on the screen. Our format is that Doug will present and do whatever he wants to do, and we will take questions afterwards. And we always have to use a microphone because of the videography, as well as some of us have more difficult hearing than others. So please, when you're ready with questions at the end, I'll have to bring you a mic, and you ask your question on the mic, okay? Okay. Mr. Doug Seacat, thank you for gracing us with your presence and bringing almost his entire family.
Thank you very much, Julianne. Yeah, it's one of the coolest things is my entire family is actually here. Sometimes hard to get all of us in the same room at the same time, but I'm blessed enough to, Dane lives in Grand Junction, but the rest of us are here in Montrose, which is a big deal for me. So thank you very much for coming. I said, when they asked me to talk, I was like, you think someone's going to want to come listen about my life, and what if they get bored and I'll leave? I appreciate a few of you guys showing up because that, at least strokes my ego a little bit. I was trying to make this in a way that can be beneficial to us. One of the things, or the main theme, really is kids in Montrose growing up and doing something here in Montrose. We've had a lot of different things that can be done in Montrose, and when I was growing up, it seemed like there was maybe not all the places that maybe could work in a large town here in Montrose. And one of my goals, my main goal when starting this, was to create a place that people wanted to work. And so, over the years, we worked on trying to create a business in town that students and kids living here in Montrose can come, get a decent job, get paid well, and do what they love to do. So we're not done yet, but we're continuing to work on that stuff. So I'm gonna, Dane and a few of the others here in the office put this together for me. So I'm gonna sit over here so I have one. So I'm gonna walk through my life just a little bit, and at the end, I'm president of Clearnetworx and VP Digital, which are companies here in Montrose that basically mostly do fiber optics, fiber internet. And so that's the business we're in. So this is kind of from the beginning to the end. So I was born here in Montrose. I learned this morning that this was the church that I came to right after being born, that there was a church in this building. And this was the auditorium, I guess. My parents are here that have that history. I don't remember that. Before that, my parents, their grandparents, one of them helped build the dams, Black Canyon Dam, and the other one came in from Oklahoma. He was a farmer there, came into Montrose and started farming here in Montrose. They both had kids, and my mom was born, and she lives in the same house that she was born in, out west of town in Shenandoah Valley. That's where I was raised and grew up. Here's a picture of the farm. Maybe another picture, or what's next? So here's my dad holding me, and the next picture is me helping learn and drive a tractor. Here's a few things. So growing up, we went to Oak Grove Elementary School. In grade school, it was a little weird sometimes. I remember thinking that I had to wear slacks to go to school. Mom talked me out of that in maybe 6th, 7th grade. I don't know, it took a while. But I liked school. I liked going and learning. Took me a while to stop liking school as much, but when I had Miss Heavers, I was thinking about this one. English was one of my least favorite classes, and I like math and science, but when I go to English class, I wanted to skip, but I couldn't. I like being a good kid. And actually, by the end of high school, that was my favorite class. So graduating at Montrose High School in '96, and came out with, I learned something, and actually started really enjoying English through high school. And this was, some of the things that was really fun for me. In middle school, I went out to, I went to assembly. They said you could be in student council, and I never heard of student council, but I thought I should try that out. So I got to become vice president in my 9th grade year, sophomore year, that'd be sophomore, I think. The next year I became student president, and then my final year, head boy. And through that, I got to really get to see kind of what it's like to, I go to school, but really some of the stuff behind the scenes and how to make things, do things in school and make things happen that you don't really just get to do if you're just going to class. Through that, in high school, I played sports. I was in football and track, baseball, those things, and wanted to contribute. I enjoyed doing a lot of stuff. I was very involved with our church and youth group, so we were a busy group, busy family growing up. One of the things that I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to be growing up. I thought I wanted to maybe be in the Forest Service in some way, getting to work outdoors, and I eventually decided to be maybe a youth minister. I ended up going to school in Manhattan, Kansas. The first year I got there, started doing some of those classes, and decided I wasn't as interested in kids as I thought I was. Which I have 4 children now, and I love every one of them. But when I got married, thought we should have a lot of kids, and I thought we should have maybe 1 or 2. Very excited that we have 4 for sure. But anyway, in school at Manhattan, Kansas, I kind of changed what I was planning on doing. I really enjoyed business. My mom was really, really into computers. She had a job. She liked computers. She would, we had a computer at the house. And so I'd always kind of liked technology. But I really liked business. And At that time, I worked on a farm, but at one point I came in and started mowing the grass at Valley Lawns, south of town. Started working in the funeral industry. Didn't really see myself in the funeral industry. I was in lawn care. I was very good at watering and keeping the grass green, so I didn't want anything else to do with it at all. But after going to Manhattan, decided to come back for a year here and go to Mesa State, and then worked at the funeral home again back for a year. At that time, I don't know if you remember, but Frank Tucker was the owner of the funeral home. He would work on me every single day saying, hey, I think you need to be in this industry, you should go to school for this and do this line of work. So I went from being a youth minister to a funeral home employee, and through that I decided to go to Cypress College in California to get my degree in mortuary science. Went out there, did that it was only a year program. It's a 2-year program in California. You go to school for a year and then you apprentice for a year. Then you can be licensed in California. Colorado, they don't require a license. You can do whatever you want out here. We've seen that in this town. But out there's some laws and rules, and you had to follow those. I ended up getting to work for the largest privately owned funeral home in Southern California. I ended up graduating top of the class. So I kind of got to pick where I wanted to work, which was cool, and got to work at this very, nice funeral. So we were very busy. I learned a lot. I would go to work every day. Through this, and I wanted to kind of get to this point when at the high school, I was, applying for all kinds of grants. Didn't get any grants. There was no grant that I won throughout. All my friends are getting scholarships to go to college somewhere. And I remember thinking, what did I do wrong? Did I fill it out wrong? Is there something that I need help with filling out forms? So anyway, get to the end. It was graduation day. I felt like all the scholarships are been given out to all my friends. They're going to nice schools, and I didn't have one. And anyway, I ended up getting the Marvin Gill Scholarship at the end, which is at graduation. They give one student that scholarship. And it's a gentleman that I'd have to write to him once a quarter, tell him what I'm doing and how I'm doing, which was really turned into a pretty cool thing because of all I learned in Mrs. Heber's class. I was able to write these letters. Anyway, so he originally was set up to just give us money to go to some local school. He ended up, throughout my entire college career, he paid every quarter, every semester, because he believed in us and what I was doing. And so I got to go to California and pay for that. And while I was there, he wanted me to get a 4-year degree. So as I was going to Cypress and graduated there and got my job at the funeral home, I started going to Cal State Fullerton to get a degree in information systems. And so as long as I kept writing him, he kept sending checks, and I keep going to school to get my degree. So I'm in California. I really like Montrose and the small town, but I was enjoying California and got to see some different parts of the world. Through all this, I had met Janelle, my wife, in Manhattan, Kansas, and so she's kind of going through this whole thing with me as well to the different towns. She moved back to Arizona. I was in California going to school. I felt like this is silly that we were having to drive back and forth 4 or 5 hours to see each other. So we moved up our wedding date, got married in January of 1999. And so she moved to California as well and helped me get through college. She was, like Miss Heber's, very helpful. She's very good at English. And it was, anyway, graduated there with a degree in information systems. With that, I'd been working at the funeral home, ended up in the funeral business for about 5 years. I was doing all aspects of the funeral industry. But I really didn't love funeral, the funeral home work as much as the business side. So when we wanted to move back here, there wasn't really an opportunity to become a funeral home owner. So I decided to start a computer business instead. And it took us about 6 months to really get our first customer and to be able to see that maybe something's going to work there. I tried to get a few different jobs, but there was just not quite the job I wanted. And ended up substitute teaching for those first 6 months and did a few other odds and ends, but started to get customers. New Vista Credit Union was one of my first business customers. They took a chance on me, I guess. And a few other large businesses in town started using me. So from there, we started building the business, fixing computers. What's next? Okay. So as I was building that business, we did everything, and it was mostly me. We got pretty busy. We started, I had a little shop in our garage, and we hired our first employee, and he had to go to the garage. I remember a lot of you, I don't know if you know Landon Rattan, but he owned Montrose Internet here in town for a while. I just remember I was full sitting out in the garage, and you could see his breath. It was so freezing cold up there. And we got to get to the customer site before we all freeze to death. So we didn't hang out in the office all that much when we were starting out. The temperature control is not that good. So we, built the business on fixing computers. And I want to go back. I think we should highlight that picture of Janelle. So I just wanted to show this. We live west of town now on Spring Creek. My parents' farm is another 5 miles out to Chavanaugh. But my neighbor has hay, and he's offered to give us the hay for a couple of horses that we have. And so we, every few months get to go pick up hay. So I kind of still get to live my farm life as a city guy. Every few days, a few years. I'm the one taking the picture, and I have shorts on. But Mila and Janelle are hard at work. And then I think Maddie's probably in there. She claims that she's allergic to hay, so she rolls up the window and drives it. But I feel like, runny nose. Anyway, we love living in the Western Slope. This is what we do. Growing up on a farm taught me how to work, and then we've worked very hard since. We currently have over 261 employees, which we'll get to that slide. But having those employees now, a lot of them didn't get to grow up on a farm, didn't grow up in Montrose, don't completely know what working is all about. So a big part of our job is to really teach people how to work. And I think from where I came from, one of the guys the other day said, "Have you even ever done this?" I was like, "I've done every aspect of this job multiple times for many years." And it's being able to say that you've done it is important, but also just to be able to teach the guys that you're with, how to work. It's not just how to slice a piece of fiber, but how to contribute to this community and to take care of the people around you. I think is extremely important. So as we build a business, it never really has been about installing a fiber optic cable. It's about teaching people how to mature and grow so that they enjoy their life, so they're doing good, thriving in their family at home, so they're taking care of the community that they're in, and not just taking from the community. And I think that's extremely important. We get those conversations every single day in my office. People come in, they have some type of view, and we get to work with them every single day. And this is what it's like to work at a business and not just come for a paycheck, but really build something. All right, what's next? Yeah, so this just has a timeline, but we started deeply in 2003, and so we're a little over 20 years, 23 years old, and Clearnetworx in 2012. A little bit of how we got started was Deeply Digital had grown. We were a decent sized company. We were handling some larger clients. There was a time where it went from, we started doing work that I couldn't completely support on my own, and that's kind of a scary time, because you know, when you're self-employed and you got to be able to fix everything, and then you take on some customers that maybe are above what my skill set or my knowledge was, you had to rely on your employees. And the day you have to start relying on employees is a very scary thing. Hiring your first employees is scary, and then hiring people that can do more than you is scary. And I think that's one thing that I've learned over the years is you can't do everything. It is a team atmosphere. And one thing that I learned in high school, and I think that's why I believe sports is really important, is you learn to rely on other people. I love doing everything myself, but I can't get where I want to go on by myself. So it's important to know that the people that are around you are also trying their best to try to get to a common goal. And so a big part of my job today is to really just keep us all focused on the same direction. But understanding who's on your team is important. And at one point, we went from Deeply Digital to starting Clearnetworx. And the reason we had to do that, we had some larger customers that were planning on moving out of town if we didn't come up with a better way of getting them internet. So the internet at that time was not that good. We were still at DSL and very slow speeds. And so our job as an IT consultant, I called a company up and said, hey, can you get us internet? And they said, sure. And they gave us a 90-day, we'll do it 90 days, and it was going to be $23,000, I think. And we get into like 80 days, and they said, never mind, we can't do it. And I thought, you're kidding me. We've been waiting this whole time, and you guys can't do it. And so this company, there's two of them. You need to know this company, they're Poly One is one of them, which is a very major player in our community. They're leaving town if we don't get fiber to them. So we started, I said, I'll figure it out, I guess what happened really. We had to build 2 miles of fiber outside of town, north of town. And at the same time, there was another guy in town building fiber to Vista Charter School. So there was 2 of us starting, we had 2 different companies, trying to start the same type of company in Montrose. And we went to the power company in the city and asked for some resources for both of them. At that time, you couldn't put fiber on the poles in town. So the city and DMEA both said, if you two will work together, we'll help both of you. So we took One Track and Deeply Digital, and between the two of us created Clearnetworx. And that was difficult because One Track was a competitor of mine. It was a competitor of Deeply Digital. We would pull wires, run wires. We're IT consultants. So he had a business, we had a business. We were, what am I going to say, friends? We were acquaintances. We liked each other enough to, wave us down the road, but we were competitors. So becoming a partner with your competitors, it takes some humility, and we, there's a reason why we were doing it, but we had to. It wasn't by choice at first. So the city and DMEA ended up giving us some resources. We're working together. He's building fiber to Vista and to the drilling company south or north town, and we get it done. We ended up getting fiber to both on time. After that, we had to kind of look at each other and say, now what are we going to do? and so we had set up meetings, him and his wife. We'd go out to their office once every other week, and we'd have meetings. In those meetings, one of the things, he did not want to do wireless. He was really only a fiber person, which I really didn't want to do wireless either, but my house was way farther out of town, and I needed wireless to get it to my house. So we kind of set up this thing where I'd have to bring people that I knew to him. They would approve it. We'd all approve it as a team that we could hook a wireless customer. So when we started, we had to go through this process of bringing every customer to this, bi-weekly meeting, bi-monthly meeting to approve a customer. We were doing just a few customers a month at that time. Today, we're doing over 600, almost 700 customers a month, 200 a week. And back then, we were doing 3 or 4 a month. Anyway, so we would go through that. At the end of that year, Jason Cook, I don't know if any of you know him, but he ended up dying in a plane crash in Delta. It was the day after Thanksgiving. I get a call from his wife, and she informed me of that. So my new partner, we finally became friends. I mean, just before that Thanksgiving, we had this meeting. I talked to him. I cried about him for a while. Anyway, we built a relationship. He was from Texas, but he'd become a local guy and was really making some difference in the community too. He really cared about the community. That's why he's trying to get the Vista Charter School is important to him. He'd also built a relationship at Ridgeway, and he promised that we'd get fiber to Ridgeway. He lived up, closer to Ridgeway, and that was a promise that he had made. So at that time, there's no way we didn't have the money, no way to get Ridgeway, but we would figure it out. So anyway, up there, he ends up dying. I now have a construction company. I really didn't know anything about construction here in Montrose. Grew up on a farm, but a tractor's way different than a drill machine, and had to figure out how to build fiber to these different areas. During that time, we were actually building over to a hospital, and so I kind of had to take that project over. Over the years, we've learned how to build fiber. We ended up buying an excavation company, Rocky Mountain Excavation, and now their team is part of DP Digital. We're very good at building fiber, in my opinion, but at that time, I had to learn it. Here's a picture. This is kind of what it looks like. We ended up buying all the fiber at Mountain Village. This is the head end at Mountain Village, so I didn't build this. A lot of this stuff is extremely old, but this is kind of what a head end would look like. Go ahead. So during the acquisition of Rocky Mountain Excavation, having kind of being new to the construction world, we ended up figuring out a way to get fiber to Uray. We had to. Uray didn't have a great connection, and they were one of our IT companies. We took care of the city up there in the county, so we had to figure out how to get internet to Uray. This was kind of our first major project, and what I believe kind of launched us into what we do. We were kind of playing with the internet, and now we had to really become experts. We had to build 47 miles, and so talking to Rocky Mountain, they're like, well, we can either come work with you or you can pay us to do it. It's kind of a conversation. We ended up acquiring them to come work for us, and we built all underground 47 miles to Uray. We worked with both Uray County and Montrose County to determine the routes. We stayed all on county roads. We decided and chose specifically not to go up the highway because we were trying to get the fiber out in the community. So it went up over Lock Hill and just on all county roads the whole way, except for at Colorado where it crossed. This is what we call the golden spike, our splice, because we had started building from Uray and from Montrose, and just south of Ridgeway here, we met, both the crews met here, and we're splicing and did kind of a cool thing there. But it was a big moment when we spliced two fibers together and you light up Uray. The public health department was the first place we went to up there, and we got service to Uray from Montrose. Through that, we made a little bit of a profit from DP Digital, enough to buy a splice trailer. We didn't have all that stuff at the time, but we had to buy some tools and things, to be able to do this job. So over the years, and this is just one of our trailers we got. So this year, to date, we've spent $31 million. That project going to Uray was about $4.2 million, so that was our first project. Now, in August, we've already spent $31 million, and the next slide showed that we're planning our budget this year is about $60 million. And we're building that all on the western slope, well, I mean, the western side of the Colorado. Our region goes from Grand Junction now, and we just started in Farmington, and we've tried to build every single town through there. Delta was our first main town that we built out. We had, when we started, we had been building that fiber in Montrose. We've built almost all the business district, but really had not served the residential communities. And around that time is when DNA started and has really built out Montrose, and we have really focused on other locations outside of Montrose because of that. We've gone and started doing full town builds around us. So when we went into to Delta, built out the entire town of Delta. We are currently building, we built out Fruta and Palisade, and now building in between the two. So we're currently in Grand Junction. It's going very quickly in Grand Junction. It's been fun. It's kind of hard to believe that Grand Junction didn't have fiber, and Montrose had fiber long before Grand Junction had fiber. So it was a good opportunity for us, and we had plans of going to Grand Junction. We just didn't have the funding to do that. So in 23, I started, long before 23, started looking for funding. We got money from various different places, but not a lot. I remember kind of the last round of trying to get funding outside of grants. So that one going to Ray was funded by a grant. But outside of grants, I had a really hard time coming with public money. People believe in fiber optics, but they're a little scared to just write a check to some guy that doesn't have a lot of assets behind behind it. So I had a bank that was willing to give us $800,000, and I said, that's great, and I appreciate it, but that's nowhere close to what I'm looking for. And so we keep working, but there's no way to get the money that I needed from a bank. So, there was a few places. We actually, part of one of the projects, we were building Telluride, and there's some people up there. One guy said, hey, I like internet. Like a lot of them up there. We're building, here's a picture of Telluride. So anyway, he ended up reaching out and gave me $200,000, which was nice. At least got me down the road another couple weeks. And I remember just thinking, it seems almost impossible to get where I want to go. And we had big dreams. And at that time, we had 20, 30 employees, but we couldn't build. Like Telluride, we'd like to build out the entire town of Telluride. That's a lot of millions of dollars to do. So we started looking. There was a company, a local company in Colorado that ended up buying a smaller internet company that had some services in Uray and Norwood, and they bought this company. So now they're kind of in my territory, and I'm thinking this larger company that has money is working in our area. Felt like they should go back to where they came from. I wasn't really happy. I'm the Montrose kid. You guys aren't. They do. The owner of that company lives in Crested Butte. One of the other guys is in Steamboat Springs and Boulder. So they're fairly local, but they weren't Western Slope, really. They're Montrose. So, but I had a friend that started working for him, and he convinced me to talk to him. So we started talking, and in 23, ended up them acquiring my business to be able to fund my business, and with the intention of letting me run our business the way we want to run. There was no other funding company. At that time, we were talking to some pretty cool companies too that fund people, but most of them were private investors or different people. At that point in 23, we were doing decent. People wanted to help us, so I had my options of who to pick to help fund our company. But these guys, they knew what they're doing. They owned an internet company and did the exact same thing we did. So together, instead of trying to explain what we're doing to a bank or some just wealthier guy and tell you right, we were able to say we need to go hook up people, and they understood what that meant, and the funding to me made sense. And as long as I got to keep complete control of my business, I was okay with it. With a bank, I felt like I wasn't really in control either. They as they started borrowing money, they had a lot of control over you. So in this case, it felt like I had the most freedom to run my business the way I wanted to run it. So currently, we have a group of businesses that we've built over the years. So Clearnetworx and DP Digital. We've acquired Spring Creek Cable, which is up west of town. Tom, if everybody knows who he is, but we took over his fiber plant. Mountain Village. We acquired all the fiber in the fiber business. Cortez, the city of Cortez was building fiber, which Jason, my original partner, helped build all of that fiber down there. We've just recently acquired Ting Assets, which is in Durango. So we've Fast Track Communications, which is out of Durango as well. So we've started acquiring the companies around us, and they all are part of Clearnetworx here in Montrose. We obviously are funded by this larger Vero broadband, but it allows us to really get to control what we're doing. We get to dream what we want to do, go pick the markets we want to build, ask for the funding. Usually the check shows up in the mail pretty quickly after we ask for it, and we get to go build. So it's, in my opinion, I'm getting to live my dream life because I don't have to worry about money, and I just get to go do what I enjoy doing.
That's good.
Well, I was just saying 60 million is our budget for this year. And on top of that, we had won $25 million in 24 of grant funds, so which we're currently working on, which there's projects in San Miguel, La Plata, Montezuma, Southwest area. And then, so these are some of the sponsorships that we've spent $116,000 so far this year in just sponsoring local events, local groups. We've attended 110 events so far. So in 21, this is just kind of a cool slide for me, I guess. There was a time when we got close to 50 employees, and I was like, I had heard, I'm from Montrose, don't really know a whole lot, haven't worked for any big business. But anyway, I'd heard that there was more, rules and regulations when you get over 50. And so I was a little concerned, what do you do with that? Didn't really have too many mentors to ask, what do you do when you get to that size? But I remember talking with we did have an HR friend, director, I don't know what his job was at that time, but Jeff Pollard worked for me, it's Pollard Brothers, his dad does. So he'd run a crew of about 3, and I was like, hey Jeff, if he's not working for us because he was doing t-shirts and running a small QuickBooks over there. So he's now working for us, and we started talking about what do we do, and we stopped around 48, and we just thought, we know we want to go bigger than 40, 50, but we don't know what to do at 50. So I just remember sitting in a room one time and said, well, we got to do it. Let's just do it, figure it out. And that's really our mantra, we just figure it out. So we started learning, and Jeff has become an excellent HR director now at 260 months. So I'm glad we didn't stop at 50. We have more things to do. And I just want to show this as an impact to our community, which I've never done this research. I was on MEDC board. We really talked and really helped try to grow some businesses here in Montrose. And this is something that Sandy Head always brings up, is how much payroll and all the different statistics of business and what does that do for a community. I had never really checked that for myself. My wife pays the bills and I just go have fun and live in my dream world. And so I really had no idea what we were spending. So I knew it was a lot, but I just brought this up. I wanted to show at the end of this year, we'll have about $17 million payroll with an average for our employees are average salary of $65,000. Which, I remember our first person trying to pay 40,000, and I thought that was crazy. And you know, we had people on salary making over 100,000, and those are things that I never dreamed really of being able to do when we first started. There was a time where, you know, Janelle calls me up and says, you know, there's $7 in the bank account, and we have payroll on Friday. And I said, well, good thing it's not Friday. It was Wednesday, but you know, we had a couple days. Somehow that money came and we made it. And it's been that way every single time. Which I haven't talked a lot. I was going to talk a little bit about this, but you know, faith is an extremely important piece of my life, and so you know, I think it's always been easy for me because I just say it's going to come. It's okay, no problem. And I have I'm able to take a lot of risk because it's really, to me, not a risk. If I could dream it, I feel like I can get there. So I usually dream a lot and then figure out how to get there. Actually, Janelle figures out how to get there. I just say we're going and everybody will jump on. But if you're not concerned, and I was at a conference this last couple weeks ago. I had a talk was on a panel, and you know, they talked about how do you stay calm in something like this? Like when you're growing that size of the company, and I think a lot of that is just how we were raised. When you're on a farm, you do have to figure it out. And I think that's one of the things we need to teach our kids here. I mean, there's a way. Maybe you can't see a way, but there's a way. You just got to keep working until you get there. And we've had interns at our shop. This is kind of when in 21, our all hands meeting, and this is this year, our all hands meeting. And those guys, the difference between, like most of these guys still work for us. Some of them started as interns from the high school. And we've taught them how to work, and they love to work. Most of the guys that work for us enjoy coming because it's fun what we're doing. These are just some of the things that we offer in our company. I'll try to pick this up. But if you have students, kids, you know, family, whatever, there's a lot of different things besides just digging dirt, which we do a lot of that as well. That's over here. But I mean, there's GIS design. We're currently now designing for multiple companies, not just my own company, but other companies outside of Colorado are calling us up to design their fiber networks in their communities, and we're doing that for them. Here's just a work chart. I just want to bring this up real quick. We never had a work chart. I hired you know, a smart guy that works for us now and said, hey, you guys need a work chart. And I said, I think that's silly. Everybody should just report to me. Not because I wanted it, because I didn't like bosses. And they didn't, you know, just go do your job. Anyway, we've created this thing. And my point is we've had this discussion, but these are all very hardworking people. And the way I've described it is I want to turn that thing upside down, and I'm helping support them. It's not my job to tell them all what to do, but to help them do what they already know what to do. And so giving people encouragement, saying, you know, you can do it, encouraging them to do their job, and then us guys at the top get to support their efforts. And I think it's actually worked out pretty well, trying to teach everybody. That's how I see it. Keep going. I just want to point these are some of the high school graduates. I graduated in '96, and these three graduated in the year before me. That's Sarah, Jeff, and Mitch. There's some golfers. There's Lionel on the right. Just some of our employee fun things.
You got a lot of employees.
Yeah, keep going. I just want to call this out. This year we won the Best of the West in Grand Junction, which was kind of cool. We just started building in Junction. We've been up there a year now. And the community already knows who we are, likes us. They voted us the best up there, which for us was, you know, that's exciting. Here's the party afterwards. We have 155 trucks or vehicles at the moment. Here's one of them. Bucket trucks was a new thing for me. I didn't know what to do with a bucket truck. We've now become bucket truck experts. That's a drill. So we bore under the roads. This goes down in a bore pit, goes under the ground. We hook onto the conduit. We pull it back, and then you can run fiber through it. So that's how we get underneath roads and do most of our construction. So as of this year, we reached over 50,000 passings, 13,000 subscribers, which, like you said, we're adding about 800 a month.
Doug, what's a passing?
It's a home or a business.
I'm sorry, say that again.
A home or a business.
Oh.
So when we build out the community, you count, there's 50 homes in that neighborhood. I just want to highlight this real quick. This is the standard of people in the internet industry. This is standard for people signing up for your service. So taking that national average across the United States with all the different internet companies, CenturyLink, Spectrum, everybody, this is about the adoption rate that they do. We looked at the best companies and we call it the gold standard, which is this one, and the ones that are really doing well. And then the blue one is us, in which I just want to highlight, nothing that we're doing anything special. This is one of the cool things, I think, with the joining with Vero. They have the exact same company we do. It's Vero Broadband and Clearnetworx, and they have a person, her name's Sunita, and they have me. We have all the same people. At org chart, they have the same people. They hire some very educated people. We hire mostly people from the mines out of Delta and the ranches around here. And somehow we're keeping pace and really just blowing past even the best, in my opinion. So this Fruta Bayfield, we just finished. This Grand Junction, maybe a little slower, but we're still tracking. So anyway, we track this all the time. How many people are signing up for our service, and we track that and we compare it to others. That's one of the coolest things about joining up with Vero is we get to see what the whole rest of the world is doing, and we get to see in Montrose this little company that is started from a farm to get to those things. It's just some happy customers. We call it the fiberhood, which is the passings that we're talking about. We just on Friday learned that we won another $38.1 million of grants, which is, we didn't expect to win $1. They changed the grant process when Trump came in. We thought it was all going to go to wireless companies. They supported fiber here in Montrose, so that's cool. Here's an ad we just put together. This is, when all those divisions, one of them is marketing. Dane is part of that. Here's this.
At Clearnetworx, we're an internet provider that just gets it. We get that some things are better hidden.
Like the fishing spot. I'll never share.
Not when it comes to your internet bill. No hidden fees. Ever. Or that speed matters, both download and upload.
On your left? On your left.
Oh man. And then sometimes locals know best. So we keep things 100% locally based in Western Colorado. Clearnetworx, not just better internet, a better internet experience. Learn more and sign up at clearnetworx.com.
So that's just one of the products we put together. They do a really cool job. I mean, it's been fun. We never really advertised. We finally got to start advertising. This is one of those.
So are you ready to answer questions?
Yeah, I was going to real quickly go 2 slides. So I just wanted to put this up. One of the cool things we've learned, we're trying to help local businesses, so we've started helping. We call this Slingshot Warriors. And when you're starting a business, it is very hard. We've learned a lot of things over the years. So we've had several businesses come and talk to a few of us on the leadership team on how to just get started. So if you know someone that's just struggling, needs some help, needs some financial support of some sort, raising capital, hiring people, we would like to help support that in the community and really raise up all the small businesses in Montrose. And that's one of the things that we've been trying to do over there. So you can get hold of me of that. That's it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Good, thank you so much. That was great. Who has a question?
I was going to have you stand up, but that was my wife and one of my daughters.
Sorry, I'm an appointment.
Well, at least she was here. I appreciate your family all being here. Thank you. Question. Okay, back to class, Doug. Here's Kathy.
You've made it so inspiring, and but there have got to be difficult moments. What do you think were your biggest challenges?
Keeping Janelle on board, I was thinking she remembers all the challenges. I just remember the good stuff. There's so many, like, you have to get the job done. You can't just say, well, I can't figure it out. I mean, when you tell someone you're in business and you're going to take care of them, I mean, there was many nights where someone's server crashed and we'd stay up all night, you know, believing that it would get done and figuring out a way to figure out how to fix it. You know, getting to the point where finding funding was probably one of the hardest things. Like, we knew what we could do, what we wanted to do. I remember when we were going through it, the guy said, you can't scale your business. You're a hard worker, you're a good guy, but you can't scale. And I said, yes, I can. You know, and say it out loud, but he said that, and you know, I took that to heart a little bit. Like, they don't know what's inside of you, and you don't know what's inside of you. One of the projects I did, we had to do, we were building out all of Walmart. I would go run the wires in Walmart, then I'd come run the computer, you know, other stuff during the day. Most of my businesses were during the day. I remember sleeping, you know, 1 or 2 hours in the morning, 1 or 2 hours in the evening, sometimes going a couple of days without sleeping. You really learn what your body can handle when you push it to the limits. And you know, just learning to say I can get it done in one way or the other. I think that's, you know, what I've learned. So each time I came across a challenge, you just learn how do you get through that challenge so you can use that for the next challenge.
Thank you. No questions? My gracious. Okay, Kelvin, here I come.
So my understanding is, what do you charge customers based on the capacity of what they want to use? Can you talk about, you know, how much capacity, what does a single family need, and what does a larger business or civic entity need?
Sure. Well, sometimes what you need is what you want. So, when we talk about need, you know, I think you know, it's a hard question to answer. Other than like this, you know, putting this slideshow together. Dane was doing a lot of this from his home in Grand Junction. We don't have an office in Junction at the moment, and trying to upload those photos and download them and get them there, like you want good internet, because if you don't, it takes time. So, you know, it doesn't have to do that every single day, but if you have to do that, you work from home, you move large files, it's important to have large files, or large internet. Obviously, a larger business is going to utilize it more. I look at it more as solid internet, more reliable internet. We kind of call some internet, we call dirty internet, but I mean, it's got a pretty large pipe, but the packets going across maybe get dropped, lost, delayed. So those are important too. So having a very clean internet where your packets stay in order, they get there at the same time when they're supposed to, is almost as important as a big pipe. And that's for voice, video, those types of things are really, you know, dependent on the quality of that connection. So I think it is a little silly to charge by the capacity, because like you don't do that with a light. Can my light turn on at 40%, 80%? Like it should just be on or off. I believe kind of the same thing with my internet. That being said, the whole industry charges this way at the moment. I think that will change over time, but everybody just gets fast internet. But our lowest package, for the most part, will support a residential customer with not too much problem.
Which is what prices. I got $49.95.
Well, we start at 40. Well, this is impressive. We start at $49.95 here in Montrose. That's for 300 megabits per second, compared to like a charter, you know, just kind of the cable companies where they start as well, or that's somewhere in their mid package. You know, those would be in similar prices. So. Fiber internet is the best type of service. It is the best internet out there. We're passing light through a piece of glass. There's no, you know, light is the fastest thing that we know about so far. So it's really the things on both sides that slow that light down. has to take that light, process it, and make it into something that we can use. And that equipment is getting faster and faster every single day. With coax, you know, the traditional type of internet that we have today, they're using copper instead of light. So they use wavelengths on that copper, which is, you know, they continually kind of stretch that out and make that better too. But copper has some inherent issues where cold, water, interference from power and other things will interfere that copper, or the fiber doesn't have that interference. So we can really pass internet much faster on glass, and that's, you know, you talk about wireless. Wireless has some issues too, has some interference and capacity issues. Where that glass, that fiber really doesn't have a capacity issue. So we're not really selling capacity as much as availability. We try to make it as affordable as possible because of Montrose. We know that our goal is to bring big city fiber to small town, with small town prices, and you know,